You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face. You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Reason, for lack of a better word, is good.
You know what I mean?
Money to be made in a place like this.
Money never sleeps, pal.
You're crazy. Don't run when you lose. Don't whine when it hurts.
You know what it takes to sell real estate?
It takes brass.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. And the top of the hour will have us talking about one of the most anticipated IPOs, which turned into the trading fiasco and now balanced out, ready to move into the future. The company is Facebook. And the view of this company has to be a lot different than the hype masters have laid out, since the company did come public. Google, as big as it is, and as much growth as the company has had over the years, the company is still growing. It's a continued growth story. Whether through acquisition or organic growth, the company continues to grow. And it's my opinion that Facebook won't be too much different. The street was looking from the onset at a grand slam. Right out of the gates, they're looking for Facebook to go to $200 a share. They priced this stock way off the mark. The valuations, how they evaluated it, I still to this day don't know. Very confusing. But that is what we in the real world, we call greed. Unadulterated greed. But now that all the major short-term trading, good or bad, all that stuff has been shaken out of the tree, now we need to talk about the future of Facebook. Now, Facebook at this point is trading where it should be, in a good range, anywhere from 24 to 29. It's kind of stabilizing out, and it's trading nicely. Nothing goes up in a straight line. If something does go up in a straight line, then you'll be concerned because you have a lot of shorts coming in. But it's actually, going up, going down, and it's trading nicely. The big benefit that comes with Facebook is the future. The company has had their fingers on the pulse of social media since the beginning of it all. But what makes this company so much different than, let's say, a Twitter, is that it is beginning to master the monetization game. And that's a key thing when you're talking about a publicly traded company. And at the end of the day, investors want to see growth. They want to see that you have revenue coming in. No revenue? How are you making money? How are you making investors money? This is not a magician's game. There's no Houdini deal involved here. Revenue stream, increased revenue stream means more value to the company, which means stocks go higher and investors are happy. All right, Twitter is definitely, and I'm going to touch on Twitter because Twitter is definitely a global connector since it came out in 140 characters or less. But the biggest issue with Twitter is that although it provides a service to its users at some point, the company has to start making money. It's not publicly traded now, but it has to make some type of money to sustain the business model. The monetization would have to come from advertising dollars unless they created some magical way to generate revenue. This is the only path that I see it having to have a substantial impact on the revenue stream of the company. So if this is all true, then the business model of Twitter would have to change or be tweaked a little bit at some point. This is something that, may not work for all the Twitter users. People use it, they tweet, send the message back and forth, they connect with the world, and if advertising is thrown into the mix, I don't know how that's going to work out. Facebook has actually they've begun to be very proficient in the mobile space with Facebook, which everyone was waiting for because that's where the big revenue growth is going to come for the company, and I think that they're just going to get better and better. The bottom line, for Twitter to go public via an IPO or even a reverse merger, they need solid and a growth-driven revenue model. As far as I know, they don't have one. I don't know, that if they're going to have it or they have it in the works. I have no clue. But I do know that they're offering users the opportunity to advertise via Twitter to gain new users. But again, I'm not sure if that is going to bring the results that they're looking for. Because they need a lot of money coming in. I know a lot of money has been plugged into that. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, moving back to Facebook, I want to touch on Twitter because they're a dynamic company, and they're very influential in the social media space. Anywhere you go, tweet this, tweet that, tweet me, this, that, Twitter, the little bird all over the place. Anyway, moving back to Facebook, the company is in great shape for continued growth long term. They have begun to use some of that cash flow and stock incentives to actually make strategic acquisitions, such as with Instagram. And there are going to be others along the way, I'm sure of it. The word on the street is that they are looking at the mobile messaging service. It's called WhatsApp as a possible tap on the shoulder. Again, they're looking for innovation. They're looking for, especially in the mobile space, because that's what they're kind of focused on, is the mobile space right now, which I don't blame them, because the web-based applications, although they are functional, they do generate some revenue. Where everyone's on the move. We're in a mobile environment. People are out. Whether it's parents out there, everybody's moving. Kids are running around. Everyone has a cell phone. They have an iPhone, an Android, whatever they have. They're in constant communication, either with their friends locally or all over the world, for that matter. All right. Long term, I believe that Facebook will continue to grow its revenue, continue to acquire key components to keep itself relevant in the social media space. But I also see them venturing into other tech areas down the road. Zuckerberg, this guy understands that the company has to continue to move forward to be at the head of the table. And it looks like they are prepared to do just that. I wouldn't be shocked if inside the next 12 to 24 months we saw the stock trading well above this level. I mean, if it went to, if it doubled, I wouldn't be shocked about it. If it tripled, I still wouldn't be shocked about it. Even as we face the fiscal cliff concerns, Facebook itself is unique in nature. Social media is still growing. It's still in its infancy, and that's what people need to understand. More and more people. You have grandmothers on Facebook, on Twitter. This is the culture that we're living in, and I think it's going to be bigger and better. And everyone knows Facebook, and I think they're going to start venturing into other things. Now, sticking with that topic, there is a new social media platform that will be coming down the pike early in 2013 that will possibly give Twitter a run for their money in 140 characters or less, or maybe a little more. I do know that we will have the exclusive on Money Never Sleeps, and we will let our listeners know when we'll be speaking about it, as this is something that you don't want to miss, because, again, it's going to bring a lot of flavor to the social media space. Moving on. Let's talk about Groupon. Oh, my God. What a fiasco this company has been, honestly. Look, the company's concept was never something that I saw as having a long-term growth potential. But for some reason, someone convinced them otherwise. The concept was just that, a concept that was turned into a company, and a company that should have been built and sold off when the opportunity was there. When someone came knocking on the door, at that point, hey, you know what? Let's make a deal. Move on to the next project. CEO Andrew Mason, he knows how to build a company. That's the thing that drives me nuts. He knows how to build a company. There's no doubt about that. However, the company's concept is not something that I think will have legs going into the future. It's not truly innovative, innovative enough that it has the growth potential that, Google thought it had when they put that offer on the table a couple of years ago to the tune of about, $6 billion? I mean, geez. Google executives must be right now just giving a big Woo-wee. Good thing we didn't pull the trigger on that one. Good thing it didn't work out. All right, unlike Hewlett Packard, who jumped the gun with their $11 billion acquisition fiasco of autonomy. And now the finger pointing is beginning. The SEC is involved. This is like a mess amongst messes. Oof. The one question that I have with that situation is, where was the board when this was happening? Were people having tea? Were they absentee board members? Were they just signing documents haphazardly? Were they not doing their research? That's what a board of directors is for, to help guide a company in the right direction. They're there, they get paid, and they're there due to their expertise. I guess a few of the people on the board were going nighty-night when the votes were tallied on that autonomy deal. Look, that'll be another story that'll be in the books alongside all these financial fiascos and these events that have happened over the past 5-10 years, whatever it may be, alongside Madoff and WorldCom and things of that nature. It's just amazing to me that there's no responsibility here. No one's taking responsibility for what is happening. I don't get it. Finger pointing this, that. You signed the paper. It was your decision to do it. And you should have done your due diligence no matter what. No one can pull the wool over your eyes if you have the accounting firm in there ripping everything apart. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. Okay, if you had a guy like, here, you want to talk about a great CEO, look at Jamie Dimon. This is a guy that, he may even be our next Treasury Secretary. White House would be making a great decision doing that, but someone like that at the helm of a company, that should be a model for a great leader in a company, because I'm sure that, things probably would have been different. But then again, the company Hewlett Packard was going through a transition. Anyway, enough of Hewlett Packard. That's not the deal for today. Now, getting back to Groupon. Look, in that company, in my opinion, Mason he's not the problem. Okay, I don't see him as being the problem right now. He's creating a problem because he doesn't want to go, but I don't think he is the problem. The problem is the company itself. And I said earlier, the company has a problem. Mason is a definite leader, and he can build a company. You saw that he took Groupon from nothing, and he built it into a massive company. I commend him on that. He should build more companies like that. Build them up, sell them off. Build them up, sell them off. Nothing's wrong with that. Okay, the biggest error, for Mason, was not taking that Google offer, because he would have been, done and moved on to the next project, But I guess listening to the people that took this company on this little course right now wasn't the right thing to do. And right now, Mason has to make a decision. They're going to keep him on, which is great. Again, as I said, he's a great leader, but you can only lead something if it's worth leading. If the company's not worth leading, why are you there? Use your business acumen, use your knowledge to another project and build value. All right. Honestly, Groupon is sitting on a ton of cash. Maybe a huge stock buyback may be in order for the company. Possibly. Who knows? Or they can go look for strategic acquisitions. That's also a possibility. This is the only couple of things that I see that's going to help the company to flow out of this situation. Because look, investors, they're jittery. Institutional interest begins to dwindle down. When all this stuff starts happening, you have to make a drastic move, and it has to be something that's going to help bring the company back to life. But with its current business model, honestly, I don't see the growth beyond where it is right now. So, the stock trading at a little over $4 a share, if Mason was smart, just go and buy back stock. And potentially, you go take the company private, or if you're going to keep it public, restructure it and add some components to it that'll increase the value of the company. There's nothing wrong with increasing value. Your investors would applaud you. They would be so happy that you were innovative and you did that. But I have a feeling that Mason is probably going to wind up having to make a move like that. If not, it's just going to be a disaster for the stock. And that's my opinion on it. Now going back to Facebook, I think that the company has legs. Without a doubt, it has legs. And I think with Zuckerberg, he's always kept everything quiet. He's never, he only started doing interviews. He's only recently started opening up a little bit. I believe that what he's going to wind up doing, as I said earlier, he's going to continue to look at strategic acquisitions, building the value of the brand. Okay, and I think he has, a lot of this stuff's not going to come out, but you can assume or try to have a guesstimate as to what he's going to wind up doing. Look, the move out of nowhere, to create an open marriage situation with Zynga, wow, that was a great move for the company. That's a fantastic move. All right, the company, honestly, Facebook, doing that, it opens them up to a lot of different avenues. They can actually create their own content, their own gaming content, their online gaming content. That can be a definite revenue stream for the company. Okay, with the online gaming, because there's money in that. They were splitting it with Zynga, so if they took the 100% of the profit, there you go, adds to the bottom line. But in my opinion, Facebook creating that open marriage situation with Zynga, Facebook was its business. They have other business, but in the reality of it, when 95% or 98% of your business comes from one company and they pull the rug from underneath you, how are you going to actually generate revenue, especially as a public company? Where are you going to get business from? You're not going to get business from a Twitter because they don't have that stuff. Where are you going to get business from? You're going to work with Google? You're not going to have games on Google. So, Facebook is their game. Okay, it's the only game in town for them. But look, I think this, in my opinion, and I have to give my opinion, Facebook crippling Zynga is strategic. Okay, and them pulling away from them is crippling them. They're not doing anything wrong. They're saying, hey, we want to do our own thing. Okay, and it cripples the company. I think it's a strategic move. As look, when Zynga falls through the cracks, Facebook can actually go pick up the company for pennies on the dollar if they. It's only a couple of bucks now, but they can pick it up for a lot less than that if they wanted to, in order to have that technology, in order to have that additional revenue stream on the company's book. But I just have a strange feeling that Facebook has been speaking to other online gaming companies, and maybe they've already started to do their own stuff in-house, which would be probably the smartest move for them and would save them a lot of money if they did. They just created gaming in-house if they wanted to do that as an additional revenue stream. With their acquisition of Instagram and their potential, and I say potential because we don't know. This is just a rumor that's going around. With their acquisition of WhatsApp, if it looks like they're continuing to focus on the mobile space, which is I think that's what they need to do. Okay, so whether they're going to acquire Zynga or not, that's a gamble I'm not looking to take. The reality is that at $2, where are you going to go? To zero? Okay, can it go higher? Possibly. But I'd rather put my money to work somewhere else as opposed to trying to make that guess on that deal. All right, but what we're going to do in a minute, we're going to take a quick break. All right, we're going to be coming back on the show for the second half with John Dines of REO Capital, and he's going to be bringing some light to the fiscal cliff situation. That's, look, we're all worried about it. You have Republicans and Democrats. Everyone's jockeying for position to try to get the best deal. At the end of the day, I sent this out, and I tweeted myself. I sent this out that I think that all this political nonsense should be shelved. It shouldn't be about the Republicans or the Democrats or whose agenda is in play. What this one wants and where, why, and all this other nonsense. This should be about America. This should be about rebuilding this country. We've been through a lot of devastation. Okay, we've been through financial crises. We've been through, even with Mother Nature, dealing a bad hand. With Sandy, that had an impact on things. If they don't come to some sort of terms, okay, and if they don't rethink this and start cutting entitlements somewhat, and raising taxes where they need to be raised to balance everything out, because there's nothing wrong with raising taxes and generating revenue for the company. There's nothing for the country, but the United States is the largest company in the world, for that matter. But there's nothing wrong with generating revenue for the country, but they need to do it the right way. They need to do it strategically. They need to do it that they're not crippling people, because if they cut defense spending, and like they're looking to do, that can be the loss of 1 million+ jobs, okay, across the country. Now, what are these people going to do? Where are they going to go work? You're going to have the unemployment rate go up, but you're going to create jobs doing something else. The federal government, shouldn't be, the largest employer out there, but they are. You need to have true job creation and having to build small business. Okay, that is a key thing. Embracing the entrepreneurs of this country, allowing them the opportunity to grow, allowing them the ability, to capital, to continue to grow, to hire employees, not crippling them, forcing them to have, certain insurance policies or certain things, and raising the taxes on them by a dramatic amount. How are they going to survive? How are they going to grow? They're not, and that's the reality. They're not. So hopefully, I know some sort of agreement is going to come to place. There's no doubt about it. They're going to come and they're going to make an agreement. We just don't know what it is yet. I'm hoping it's for the better of the country, because it would be sad for us to have another leg of a recession, and we don't need it at this point. You have so many companies just issuing special dividends right now that it's insane. They're issuing special dividends because they're trying to avoid that taxation next year. All right, and it's funny. I said on the last show that it looks like they're looking out for the shareholders, but at the end of the day, a lot of the insiders of some of the major companies like Walmart and things like that, companies of that nature, a lot of the officers, a lot of the board, they own a lot of stock. So getting those special dividends helps line their pockets as well. So don't fool yourself. It's not just about the investors; it's about them too. But that's okay. It's capitalism at its best. But anyway, I'm just hoping that they do come to some sort of resolve, so that we can move forward and have growth. Because look, Obama was reelected, and everyone has something to say about something. He came at the wrong time. He did. No doubt, he came at the wrong time. Now, these next 4 years, he owns it. These are his 4 years. Question is, what is he going to do? Is he going to correct the problem, or are we going to have a double dip? We're going to be in a recession again, coming next year. Hope not. I hope not. I hope that they do the right thing to help build this economy, and that's what it's about. I would hate to think that we're going to, continue to have to, be in this amazing, incredible, ridiculous deficit, and I'm just hoping that they do come to some great terms, not only for me but for everyone. So, well, I guess we'll see what's going to happen. But on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back on the show with John Dines, because he's going to give us some insight. I'm just stating my opinion, my view, but he's going to give us some insight on what's going on, and hopefully he can shed some light on the fiscal cliff and what's going on with private equity as we head into 2013, because I believe that private equity is also going to have an impact next year for growing business, and it's going to be an interesting playing field. But on that note, we'll be right back. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Money Never Sleeps.
As you know, as we've been saying, as the President has said, he has his pen in hand. He is ready to sign a middle-income tax cut. Last July, that legislation passed the United States Senate. Similar, exact same bill was introduced in the House at that time. And since then, we have been asking the Republican leadership to bring the middle-income tax cut to the floor. The clock is ticking. The year is ending. It's really important with tax legislation for it to happen now. We're calling upon the Republican leadership in the House to bring this legislation to the floor next week. We believe that not doing that would be holding middle-income tax cuts hostage to tax cuts for the rich. Tax cuts for the rich, which do not create jobs, just increase the deficit, heaping mountains of debt onto future generations. Well, when the last minute is the last day of the month, I think that that's not right. We all know what is at play here. Everybody knows that we have to have cuts, we have to have growth, and we have to have revenue. So why are we stalling? This delay is harmful to confidence for consumers. It's harmful for confidence for the markets. It's a holiday shopping season. Wouldn't it be better for there to be a clear message, the sooner the better? So I don't know what the wait is for. It's not as if we have to get more information, that there's certain variables that we don't know about. It's very clear. And every bipartisan, I'll end with this, every bipartisan group that has addressed this issue has called for revenue cuts in spending.
Well, everyone knows about Lincoln. It just hasn't been a relevant brand. So all we had to do was introduce great new products like the new MKZ and an all-new dealership experience, and we're off to the races. Well, outside of North America, the market we're really focused on now is China. We've announced just recently that Lincoln will go to China in 2014, and we'll have an exclusive dealer network that only sells Lincoln and a world-class experience. One of the reasons why Chinese are so interested in Lincoln is it has such a beautiful 90-year history. They really want to know more about Lincoln. They love authentic luxury brands like Lincoln that have a beautiful past.
Tonight, we continue a tradition here at the White House by honoring some extraordinary people who've no business being on the same stage together. We've got Buddy Guy sitting next to Dustin Hoffman. We've got Dave Letterman alongside one of the greatest ballerinas of all time. I don't think Dave dances. All three living members of Led Zeppelin in one place. So this is a remarkable evening, and it speaks to something that has always made this country great. The idea that here in America, more than any other place on earth, we are free to follow our own passions, explore our own gifts, wherever they may lead us, and people from all around the world come here to make sure that they too can provide us the incredible gifts that they have. Tonight's honorees didn't just take up their crafts to make a living. They did it because they couldn't imagine living any other way. And that passion took each of them from humble beginnings to the pinnacle of their profession. And tonight, in the People's House, we have a chance to say thank you.
I looked at him and said, "You can't be serious." I've just never seen anything like it. You know, we've got 7 weeks between Election Day in the end of the year. And 3 of those weeks have been wasted. Right now, I would say we're nowhere. Period. We're nowhere. We've put a serious offer on the table by putting revenues up there to try to get this question resolved. But the White House has responded with virtually nothing. They've actually asked for more revenue than they've been asking for the whole entire time. Going over the cliff will hurt our economy, will hurt job creation in our country. It's not fair to the American people. And this isn't an issue about Democrats or Republicans. My goodness, this is about our country. We get serious about dealing with the problems at the end of the year, and we need to get serious about our deficit and our debt that are burying our children's future.
All right, welcome back to Money Never Sleeps, and you heard it from Boehner himself. We're back here with John Dines of REO Capital. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate you having me back.
No, I love having you on the show because we get to talk about the fiscal cliff and private equity, and this is a topic that so many people are interested in. So, tell us what your insight is this week.
Well, I put some notes together, and according to Las Vegas, the odds are at 70% we'll put a deal together, 30% chance we'll go over the cliff. So the odds so far are in favor of a deal passing, and especially after today. Boehner did put together a new 10-year, $2.2 trillion blueprint for President Obama to a proposal to look at that calls for increasing the eligibility age for Medicare and lowering the cost of living hikes for Social Security benefits. Altogether, he calls it more of a credible plan than what was proposed to him originally. And viewing Chris Wallace on Fox News over the weekend, Timothy Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, did not put any credible spending cuts for Medicare down, and thus the reason for Boehner saying he felt their proposal lacked credibility. But this new plan looks like the math would produce $2.2 trillion in savings over the coming decade, $800 billion in higher taxes, $600 billion in savings from health care programs like Medicare, $300 billion from other proposals like forcing federal workers to contribute more towards their pensions, and $300 billion in additional savings from the Pentagon budget and domestic programs funded by Congress. So, it appears that they're trying to come to the middle and propose something that would have a little bit of all types of savings in different areas that would go ahead and allow us to pay down that deficit. And it's something we should do because right now we're spending over $200 billion a year in interest just on the deficit alone. The numbers that I got over my fact checking were $3.9 billion every day the deficit increases.
Wow.
And right now the deficit is $16.3 trillion. And every citizen's share of that debt would equal out to be $52,171. That's the check that each one of us would have to write.
Wow.
In order for almost 314 million Americans.
I mean, how does something like this? How does this get so out of control?
The deficit spiraled as during his administration, President Obama increased in his first 4-year term the deficit by $6.4 trillion on spending to try to boost the economy. And that was more than any other president in their term. And many feel that this type of spending is really robbing our children of their future. We're putting this burden, and they said that if the average person in this country makes about $50,000 a year, and that if the average person were to try to pay down the deficit, that it would take the average person 36,000 years.
Wow.
To pay down the deficit.
That's an incredible number.
It's something that during his term, and the article that went on to say that in order to make his campaign look good, that he has exploded the largest amount of debt in U.S. history.
That I'm not shocked of. I'm not shocked of that information because, look, all this spending, John, all this spending that has transpired, what are we seeing for it? I don't see the results. I don't see any positive motion in helping the economy. Do you?
No, matter of fact, they said that because the deficit spending has increased so dramatically that corporations have literally cut back on hiring, and it's cost already our economy over 200,000 jobs because of the fear of going over that fiscal cliff.
Yeah, and it's 200,000 jobs and counting because you have defense companies that are actually bracing for this because they're starting to, contemplate layoffs and things of that nature, and some of them are doing it already. They're bracing for it because they'll get cut back.
You're right, and it's not only defense. If you look at Wall Street, Goldman Sachs is already cutting back. J.P. Morgan's cutting back. All the major firms on Wall Street are already trying to anticipate, due to the higher taxes, that what effect it'll have on the markets, and what do they need to have as far as actual human capital necessary, bare bones, to get by. They're not trying to be ready for any type of recovery at all, because no one can see out that far, because typically those firms have always looked at trying to have enough staff on board to cover the financial crisis, and then knowing that the financial crisis will evade itself and come back, that they will have enough staff on board to bounce back with the economy. They're not even looking out that far.
They're looking to survive for now.
Correct.
They're looking to survive this whole fiasco, and again, it's not going to get any easier. And honestly, I think that a lot of companies have been living or functioning in excess of what, as you mentioned, their bare bones. What they need to actually have their business functioning. I guess sometimes it's better to be lean and mean than obese.
True, and it was interesting what both sides, as we've heard, are putting their proposals on the table. But what's interesting is, and I have to agree with Senator Mitch McConnell and Congressman Boehner. He said, if the president is serious about joining us in our efforts to reduce the deficit and protect the economy, why doesn't he get off the campaign trail and sit down with us in the White House and work out a proposal. You know,
I agree with that.
He's been on the campaign trail. He's been on the social media, on his Facebook page, and on Twitter, trying to drum up support for 1.6 trillion in tax increases, with no real proposal for spending cuts or entitlement reform. You know, and Geithner didn't. We got to protect he says the seniors with Medicare and with Social Security, but yet I like what Boehner said. He said the Social Security Trust Fund has nothing in it. Congress has spent it all. And he said, we've got 10,000 baby boomers like me retiring every day.
Yeah. And where's the money coming from? You know, and why is the money not there in the first place? You know, everyone pays into it. It's amazing. So, it really is.
So we've got to really sit down and have both sides really come to the table and hash out some tax increases and spending cuts, because I don't care which side of the political party you're on. Economics 101 dictates that you can't pay down a deficit solely by tax increases. You can't keep spending. It says we're seeing this country, as we speak, end up like Greece and Italy and Spain and to some extent France, where their debt has risen to a point where they can't borrow at a reasonable interest rate anymore to pay down that debt.
And it's funny to me that if you look at the markets, you know, Spain, I believe it's Spain, the banking system actually went and they went for a safety net. Okay, on that news, you know, European markets started moving up. You had money, you know, like kind of rushing to European markets and kind of leaving U.S. markets. So it's just a crazy time that we're in, John. And I agree with what you were saying. You know, with what Boehner said. You know, sit down. You know, Obama going on Twitter and speaking to a few people, sending some tweets out, this and that. That's not solving the problem. You have to sit. They should just lock everyone in a room, come to a solution, figure it out. Well, that's what you get paid for. It's the job.
That's right. There was an analyst today out of Texas, out of San Antonio, that posted a petition on the White House website asking for signatures to back her proposal that would stop all paychecks for all congressmen and senators until they work out a budget. And she said, which is true, she said, if I went ahead and kept spending and didn't really address the issues with my company, I'd be fired. And it's like I told some of my associates, this would be similar to having a $10,000 line of credit with Citibank on your MasterCard, and every year you spend that $10,000 and you go back to Citibank and you ask for an increase for another $10,000, and then you go back the following year, and you keep doing this year after year, asking for increases until the point where you can no longer even afford to pay the interest on that deficit that you've kept borrowing against. And that's in reality what we've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we've done. And you have politicians voting on spending more money, and this has been happening year in and year out. And it's right now we are where we are. And you know, I kind of, the thing that comes to me when I view this whole situation is moral hazard. Where's the accountability for letting all this happen? I don't understand it.
how much the deficit has spiraled out of control since when George Walsh Bush took office, the deficit was $3 trillion, and now it's $16 trillion. And they think by the next 4 years we could see it at $24 trillion.
Wow. Hey, John, let me ask you something. If you, like your kid or your wife, if she was, or they were spending out of control, and kind of using the credit card and maxing it out, everything else, my question: what would you do? With a normal, sane person, what would you do? You take the card and cut it.
That's right. You cut.
Stop the bleeding. Stop. Yeah.
Stop the spending immediately, and yet President Obama wants to continue to spend money on Medicare and on other entitlements and Social Security. Oh, they also stated, and we talked last week about this, how it's become a Ponzi scheme, and the evidence has come out that for the baby boomers, for every $1 they paid into Social Security Trust Fund, they're presently getting $3 back.
Wow.
So the people are living longer, and they're taking more out than what they paid into it. And of course, everyone, including my own mother, thinks that, well, I worked hard all my life, I deserve it. No, I'm sorry, Mother, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve to go ahead and collect my money that's entitled for me.
Mm-hmm. And that's because, again, accountability. Money's swooshing here, swooshing there, and no one knows. It's it's funny you say Ponzi scheme. It's like it's like a street game. It's like someone's rolling the dice and just going to see what's going to happen. And if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. You just go on. You play another game. This is not Vegas, not Atlantic City. This is America. And all the spending, all the gambling with other people's money, because that's what it is, or the spending of other people's money. Everything has to come to a halt, because if it doesn't, and we're going to keep facing, this is going to be a problem that's not going to go away. And those commercials about China owning the U.S. scare the crap out of me.
Right. Well, you were right earlier in your program when you talked about deal makers are scrambling as the cliff nears. That was in Friday's Wall Street Journal, where I think it's gotten a little bit ludicrous, where Costco CEO and board is going to borrow money from the bond market in order to pay a special dividend, because interest rates are so low that instead of paying out that special dividend from their cash, they're going to go ahead and borrow at lower rates and pay a special dividend before this fiscal cliff nears. And you're right, many more people are paying off these special dividends. But in my world, private equity managers are bracing for these higher taxes in 2013, and their final weeks of their investments and capital gains, and shifting to face these higher taxes. And what they are doing right now is they are on their share of buyout deals, and they're looking to collect that carried interest on these deals before that fiscal cliff looms, so that they can go ahead and get paid by year end these benefits in the private equity sector that right now are under exemptions, but that will not be as we go into the new year. And of course, many benefits, such as the capital gains, are going to affect not just the private equity sector, but it's also going to affect people who have their 401ks in the stock market and are going to be subject to those higher capital gains taxes, and even people that are in just the working class, that additional payroll taxes, they're going to see less in their paychecks. And it is going to stifle job growth. And it's going to be something that people will have to adjust to the pinch that they're feeling. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where there is no other way around it.
No, they have to tighten the belt and move forward. And I'm glad that you brought up the Costco thing, because in the month of November, I believe that was the highest number of bonds that were issued ever in this past month. Okay, I think it was to the tune of about $100 billion. And again, that's companies going out, and when you have an Amazon, that can go and borrow, whatever, $3-4 billion, whatever it may be, at a better rate than the U.S. government can borrow. That's you got to question what's going on.
Right. Here's a ridiculous number. It said that if your family earns $50,000 a year, and if you were to spend none of that on food, rent, transportation, income tax, or even pursuing your own happiness, and if you take all of your family's income and to pay down just the $16 trillion, it would take for one individual family making $50,000 a year, it would take 512,000 years. 512 million years. 512 million years. Excuse me. I was missing 3 zeros.
That doesn't matter. It's a lot.
It says, it talks about sanity returning to Washington, and that's absolutely what we need is that sanity returning back to Washington.
Well, there has to be some sanity there, and I think people have to go and speak. I know that Geithner, he's on his way out. They're talking about Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase stepping in. I think he would be a great choice to be the Treasury Secretary. I think that you have so many things are in flux, and the one problem that I have for both Congressmen and Senate, you know what? You guys, people they're taking a break and they're going home to their family, everything else, while all this stuff is happening. I believe that they should all be there together in one area, make this happen one way or the other. Come to terms, make a deal. Don't sleep. Whatever you need to do. This is what you get paid to do. You need to help for us to avoid going over that cliff. Because we go over that cliff, it's going to be it's going to be a Hail Mary all around.
It was interesting that the Republicans, when they got Timothy Geithner's proposal, they responded with laughter, and their answer was, "You can't be serious." And the Democrats, they said, are deeply skeptical of raising Medicare age and Social Security age, when in fact these are entitlement programs that are a large portion of that deficit that we have to modify. So, even the seniors are not going to be exempt from feeling the pinch. They're going to have to contribute as well. It can't be just the middle class. It's got to be every class.
Yeah, everyone has to make adjustments in their lives for this. And again, it's just something that transpired. For us to go and point fingers at this point doesn't matter. Forget about all the finger pointing, come to a resolve. Let's move forward, get things together, help create jobs, help create, a revenue stream for this country so that we can continue to grow and be the power that we are. I don't know how, what their thinking is. Mitt Romney, when he was running for office, one thing that he was saying that, each state should be accountable and help to build their state, which is great.
Right.
I think that should happen. If you look at Florida, they're looking to create jobs over there. They're looking, what was it, Rick Scott? He's looking to create the next Silicon Valley in Florida. Now they're doing that in Nevada. Okay, yeah, they're doing it in Chicago and Illinois. They're looking to grow organically, so to speak, and create something from nothing and trying to build. And I think that there should be more encouragement from that. Having people on public assistance and things of that nature, I get it. Some people need the help. But you know what? Bring things to a point. Not only are we helping them, also give them a skill so that they can go and get a job, so they can get off public assistance. That's the big mystery of the world, right? Of this country, anyway.
You're right. We don't want to create dependency. We want to create opportunity.
Yeah, and now with everything happening, and you made mention of, with the average income, the average family, the household income, and what they're looking at. Now, if you have two parents, let's say they have teenage kids, they're ready to go to school. Guess what? They can't afford it. Guess what? There are no grants out there for these kids to go to school. Now these kids are out in the workforce. And what does that affect? Not only that family, not only that kid's future, also affects the academic facilities, the universities and colleges. Now they're not getting the revenue stream from people going to the school. So there's a domino effect. It just keeps going around.
I can't fathom how they come up with the math that says that cutting taxes only leads to higher deficits when it's been proven that the way you stimulate small businesses is to create a tax code that gives the small business owner the incentive to buy new equipment, to hire new employees, to go ahead and invest in their company structure. And higher taxes is only going to have a detrimental effect on that type of growth. And my biggest concern is that in the private equity sector, you're going to see, as we talked about last week, more people taking the golden parachute out from their companies because they can't afford, between the new health care costs and the higher taxes and the payroll taxes and the ordinary income taxes, that is going to it's going to cause deals for me because I'm going to be able to buy these companies for 30 cents on the dollar.
Right.
But for those people who were employed at those companies, you're going to see unemployment rates rise because of this deficit.
Yeah, and I agree with you 1,000%, John, because now this environment, the environment they're creating, you have so much money that's sitting on the sideline waiting to come back into the market. They're waiting. Their money's not gone. They're waiting. Private equity, hedge funds, individual, just wealthy individuals that are just waiting. Okay, and when the opportunity comes, they will grab these companies. You're going to have corporate raiders coming out of the woodwork to go swoop up these companies because they know in a matter of 4 or 5 years, all this is going to be over and they'll be growing. But for the time being, they're going to suffer. So it's like, kind of cleaning up after a bloodbath. You're just picking up the pieces.
Right. And they've already mentioned in the journal about KKR and Goldman Sachs and even Jamie Dimon's J.P. Morgan, all of them looking at deals now that will be even more lucrative next year. This year, they haven't made the kind of bonuses. They haven't made the kind of revenues that they've made in prior years. This year has been tighter, but a lot of these firms like KKR are predicting a much more lucrative year next year.
And the thing is with KKR, I mean, look, Henry Kravis, he was the innovator of the leverage buyout. And I think that now going into the situation, you have KKR, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all these major firms, even major firms overseas, that are sitting on the sideline waiting to get involved. I think that when they go and they grab these companies at, for, like you said, pennies on the dollar, they're not going to have any problem getting to the money to take them over if they need to leverage it, because the valuation is going to be there. So it's going to be easier for them to actually make this happen. And it's going to be a Hail Mary, as I said.
let's face it, the cost of borrowing is cheap, and so the leverage they're going to get on these deals is going to be phenomenal. I'm already looking at companies with 60% profits margins in some of these deals, and of course, when you mention those kind of numbers, the doubt comes out. People are, come on, John, really, 60%. Well, those are the kind of numbers: 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%. These are going to be the type of profit margins that you're going to see in the upcoming couple of years, because people are going to take those parachutes and just parachute right out.
Well, it's going to be more of the norm than the exception, and it's going to be an interesting road for sure. But I do think, and I do agree with you, that private equity, the money that's sitting there, KKR, those companies, they're going to benefit like nobody's business. And as much as they're trying to fix things here, or they're going back and forth with Obama, Congress, Senate, all this stuff that's going on, they're missing the big picture. No one has a forward view of what's going to wind up happening. What they're doing now with letting things fall down or letting all this up, this should have happened 4 years ago. Just let everything drop and then pick up the pieces. We would be better off today.
I think that if we look back, what's clearly evident to me is that yes, we need to go ahead and spend money on our roads and bridges. We need to have that upkeep with those types of projects, but you cannot stimulate an economy that's in a recession simply by throwing money at it and spending, because there are those consequences by overspending. And that's exactly what we've done, is we've overspent. And now you're right. China's coming in, buying up our real estate in Nevada, Florida. Yep, they're buying it, and it's going to be like years ago when Japan was buying up all the real estate in Hawaii and in California.
Yep, and that's we're going to have that situation, because I know, as far as real estate is concerned, you go to Miami, that market has been on fire and it's been growing. Granted, they have a cycle, they have a 10-year cycle they go on, and it kind of slips back down. But right now, the Russians are coming, and they're coming in, and they're buying these houses. They're buying these houses that are not worth $2 million. They're worth 20, 30, 40, 60, $80 million. So you have real money coming in here just buying a vacation home. Nobody sees it. It's funny.
And what's frightening is that the average American citizen on the street really is trying his damnedest to survive. And it's kind of like the tsunami out at sea. It's hit Hawaii and it's on its way towards California, and nobody's really looking out on the horizon to see that huge tidal wave coming in on shore, but it's coming.
Nope, it's coming, and it's coming fast.
They're calling it Tax-mageddon.
Tax-mageddon, that's funny. and people have a misconception that come January 1st, like Y2K, everything's gonna stop and the world's gonna end. It doesn't happen that quickly, but people gradually are going to start seeing the change. But the change is going to affect their pocketbook, going to affect their lifestyle, going to affect everything. And I think more importantly to me anyway, it's going to affect that next generation.
Well, when the average American who's living on $50,000 a year has got a budget that they're living on, and when they start to see that paycheck a little lighter because of those payroll taxes, because of those Obamacare taxes, because of the increased income taxes, then all of a sudden now they've got to make some tough choices on what are they going to trim. And it's going to be vacations, and it's going to be possibly dipping into their food budget, and it's going to affect the way the average family has gotten by, but they're going to see that paycheck just a little bit lighter, and it's not just the 3% who are making $250,000 and above. It's going to be the average guy making $50,000 and above.
Yeah, and this is the thing that kind of throws me off is that Obama, and his whole campaign, and even right now with Facebook and Twitter and all the social media and the campaigning that is continuing to go on and on, it's like enough already. This is the class that he said he was trying to protect, but this is the class that's going to get hurt the most.
The math on his side doesn't add up as much as he's trying to imply. The math on the GOP side doesn't add up.
No.
But it, you can't throw rocks at when you live in a glass house. You can't go and say that other person's math doesn't add up when in fact your math doesn't add up.
Yeah, well, I think they all have to sit down. They have to figure this out, And again, Boehner's right, and you're right in saying that the campaigning right now, you won. You won. You're the president for the next 4 years. You're here to lead the country and get us out of this problem. Because now, and I said this earlier in the show, that Obama, his first term, he inherited a lot of crap. Great. You know what? That's 4 years. That's it. For these next 4 years, he owns these years. Anything that happens here, it's him, all him. He can either be a hero or he can be known as the president that crippled this country.
Right. And what people don't realize also is every time he gets on that President One airplane to go to another city to campaign for his tax increases, the cost of jet fuel and the cost of running that airplane is in the tens of thousands of dollars each flight, each destination. From New York or from Washington just to New York, it's $20,000 in fuel, not to mention the cost of the staff, the Secret Service, et cetera, et cetera. There's that additional spending right there just to go ahead and convince the rest of America that we just need tax increases and we don't need spending cuts.
Well, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when the auto crisis was going on. And I remember when GM, Chrysler, Ford, they had to go to Capitol Hill. I remember the CEO of GM, he didn't take a plane over there. He drove in a General Motors car from Detroit to the Hill.
Yeah, it was the second set of hearings he did that because in the first set of hearings, one of the congressmen called him stupid for flying in on his company jet. Literally told the CEO of a Fortune 500 company that he was stupid.
So now what do you call the president when he does it?
But that's okay because it's the left.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, and I'm all for, he's the leader of our country. I'm all for him, being, treated well and being able to expedite things as far as travel is concerned. But unnecessary travel, it doesn't make any sense to me. All I know is that if everyone's tightening the belt, that should be everyone. And any great leader, they'll lead you down a road, but they're going to lead by example, not, do as I say, not as I do. And then that's kind of what we're looking at here. You have people on the Hill that are saying, do as I say, but don't do as I do, because I'm going to keep spending, but do as I say, stop spending. How do you do that?
And so many people want to kick the can down the road. Don't cut me, cut the next guy.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it's going to get done.
Well,
you can't go ahead. We're going to have to make some tough choices on the seniors.
Yeah.
We're going to have to make some tough choices on taxes. And it's got to be a bipartisan agreement.
And let's see if that happens, John. Let's see if that happens, because right now, the way things look, are they going to make it by the end of the year? I don't know, because they're going to start taking off for the holidays, and that's going to be it. And then we're going to go into the new year with this nonsense on the table, and I think that's wrong. I don't care if you have to stay there Christmas Eve to figure this out. That's your job. That's what you get paid for. Pay me to do that. I'll do it. Okay, if I have to balance the budget in my business, have to balance the budget in my household, I will work and burn the midnight oil to make sure that happens. They should have that same accountability.
Man, these guys are knocking down $250 plus cost of living increases plus full health care, the best health care, and they've got their constituents that are counting on them. And now I'm encouraged that both sides have put their plans on the table. Mm-hmm. And now it's a matter of saying, you propose this, how about this? And as I've said in my negotiations are all about compromise. It's all about both parties coming to an agreement, both parties giving and taking a little bit, but both parties are going to have to give a little bit to come to some type of a middle agreement, middle ground, so that we can go ahead and get this. And when you think about it, $2.2 trillion over 10 years, that's not a lot of spending cuts when the deficit is at $16.3 trillion.
Yeah.
It's over
they
10
can
years.
They can figure this whole thing out. It has to do with them wanting to. And you mentioned the constituents and how, the officials that have been, voted in, they're worried about their own butts. They're worried about their next term. Okay, that shouldn't be the case. You sometimes, you may be doing the right thing for the people, and they may not think you are, but they'll figure it out soon enough when everything is done, and they'll say, okay, you did the right thing for us, even though we didn't think it was the right thing. And sometimes as a leader, you need to do that, and I think that they need to do that, and I think that they have to stop trying to cover their own future, okay, by doing the right thing for this country at this point. And you can only hope. That's why you have them in office, to do the right thing for you and do the right thing for this country. So let's hope they start figuring it out, John, because this is not something that's going to go away tomorrow.
Well, one thing that I'll leave you with is that we've got to take a page from history. When we go back to the Reagan administration, President Reagan agreed at that time, after the Carter administration, to some tax increases, and in that bill was supposed to be some spending cuts along with the tax increases. So the bill that President Reagan signed was supposed to include budget cuts as well as tax increases. After it was signed, the tax increases went into effect, but the spending never was cut. So we need to look back at the history of what happened, and I think this is why Boehner is so adamant about getting a plan down in writing from President Obama's administration that includes both the spending cuts as well as the tax increases, because we know that one party stands for bigger government, one party stands for smaller government, one party stands for small business, the other party stands for making people dependent on government.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the wrong road, because when it's like being honestly, it's like being a drug addict. You're dependent on the substance. Okay, you need to take it away for them not to be dependent on it. You know, you kind of minimize stuff and get, you can't create people dependent on the government, because that happens. Okay, you're going to stifle growth because no one's going to want to go and build anything. Where's the entrepreneurship?
That's right, Lou. This is the greatest country in the world where people come over here to make a better life because it's the quote-unquote land of opportunity, and that if you put your mind to it, you can go ahead and create that small business. Or in the past, we've been able to create that small business idea and watch it develop and watch it grow, and that's been the backbone of America, is having that dream fulfilled, having that idea, and working hard at making that idea grow. And it's been the small business owners that have been the backbone of the growth in America. Yeah, so we've got to continue that entrepreneurial spirit, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to, because that's the only thing that's going to take us out of this problem. But again, we all live in a real world, and what's going to happen is going to happen. Hopefully, they come to some sort of medium so that we can kind of move forward. But everyone's going to get hit. Everyone's going to get hit, and you're going to have private equity, hedge funds, and then the big money just waiting to scoop up the mess and clean it up and benefit. Like yourself, in your area, John, you're going to have a lot of opportunities that are going to come down the pike, and more so than in the past 3-4 years, you're going to be able to cherry pick what you're going to work with.
It's true, though. We're going to see more opportunity for those accredited investors who are going to be exposed or be allowed to look at these type of private deals that are going to be more prevalent as the years develop because of the sale of these assets. And it's going to be in real estate, it's going to be in technology, it's going to be in clean technology, it's going to be in biotechnology. I'm seeing it across the board in different areas that people are looking at. In aviation, aerospace. They're looking at it in all areas.
America's on sale. America is on sale, and that's what it comes down to, And for any listeners out there that are accredited investors, I would urge you to go to REOCapitalLLC.com because John, he's amazing in what he does, and he has his fingers on the pulse of the private equity sector. And, John, I know that you're getting opportunities and different things, and come next year, come 2013, you're going to get a lot of deals coming down the pike where people can actually benefit by linking up with you. So I think it'd be smart on their end because nothing is, we could talk about it all day. The reality is that this taxation is a reality. Taxes are going to go up. Capital gain, all this stuff's going to happen. and opportunity is going to open up anyway.
And there is going to be that silver lining in the cloud that are going to, for those who are more sophisticated and astute and are looking at alternatives to the typical equity and bond markets, they're going to see deals on the equity side, and I'm seeing them both with both equity and debt combined to provide, as I mentioned before, a 10% coupon and a 30% IRR on the funds. There are all they have to do is go to my blog and read some of the types of companies that we're in discussions with to be able to get a flavor, an idea, so to speak, of the types of things that are already developing before we even reach this cliff.
Yeah, well, I think that what you're writing is just the tip of the iceberg. Like individuals like yourself, companies like what you do, there's going to be a lot of benefit coming, and I think that with the accredited investors that are out there, they're going to start getting shut out because a lot of these private equity firms are going to start locking the gates because they can't, they can only take in so much capital.
Well, and speaking of that, there are central banks as well as George Soros and guys like him who are racing to buy hard assets like gold and real estate.
Oh, yeah.
And buying up, and they're looking at prices because of the uncertainty in these markets right now. They're looking at the possibility of gold hitting $2,400 an ounce by the summer of 2013, with the possibility of gold hitting $8,800 an ounce by the summer of 2014.
That would be incredible. I remember when gold, back in the early 2000s, I think it was like maybe 2005. Okay, it was about $300 and something dollars a share, maybe $400 an ounce. I'm sorry, it was in that range, and now look at us, and now it's even going to go further. And if Soros is right, and it does hit those levels, and it hits those numbers, or if the reports are correct, it's going to be a melee, and it's going to be incredible. So those that are looking to get married, you better start looking at a different metal.
Buy that ring now before we go ahead and go over the fiscal cliff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, John, as always, it's great to have you on Money Never Sleeps. You bring a lot of flavor to the show and a lot of information that our listeners definitely get a benefit from. So I thank you for coming on. And, for our listeners, definitely go to REOCapitalLLC.com. Find out more about John and what he does, because he is good at what he does. That's why he's on the show, and he takes his time to share this with you so that you can get better educated, not only with what's going on in the world and in the country, but also the opportunities for accredited investors that will be coming down the pike. And you'll also have crowdfunding situations that we'll talk about another time, but it's going to get interesting.
Lou, I appreciate being on the show.
Thank you, John, and we'll have you on next week as well, because every week it's something different, without a doubt. Thank you again, and thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back with you next Monday, 7:00 live. Money Never Sleeps, to give you some more insight on what's going on in the world today.
You're listening to UCW Radio, in your face.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
For lack of a better word, you slick.
You know what I mean?
Money to be made in a place like this.
Money never sleeps, pal.
You're crazy. Don't run when you lose. Don't whine when it hurts.
You know what it takes to sell real estate?
It takes brass balls.